creatures in this world that seem designed by an imagination beyond any known logic. Birds that carry impossible colors, that build with the precision of engineers, that hunt with a speed greater than any human reflex. From the densest and most humid tropical jungles to the icy cliffs of the far south, nature has sculpted winged beings that break every rule we thought we knew about life on Earth. Today we are going to journey together through the 15 corners of the planet where these extraordinary creatures exist, and we guarantee that not a single one of them will fail to amaze you. Welcome to the top 15 most extraordinary birds you must witness at least once in your lifetime. Before we begin, tell us in the comments, which part of the world are you watching us from today? What distinguishes a king from the rest? It is not size, it is not speed. It is something you notice before the animal does anything at all. Something that radiates from its very presence, from the way it occupies space. And that is exactly what you feel the first time you lay eyes on the king vulture. Look at its face. It is as if someone decided to paint a tribal mask using the boldest colors on the palette. Fiery orange blending into carmine red, soft lilac contrasting with the bright yellow of the eyes. Everything converges on a completely bare head, smooth without a single feather to soften that fierce and at the same time hypnotic expression. There is no other animal on the planet with a face like it. Its scientific name is Sarcoramphus papa, and it inhabits the tropical regions of the Americas, from southern Mexico to northern Argentina, soaring above jungle canopies that from the heights resemble endless green carpets. With a wingspan reaching nearly 2 meters and a weight that can exceed 4 kilograms, when this animal spreads its wings and glides above the trees, everything else seems small. Here comes the first surprise. Unlike most of its relatives, the king vulture does not locate its food through smell. While New World vultures, such as the turkey vulture, possess an extraordinarily developed sense of smell and can detect carrion from kilometers away, the king vulture relies on its vision. It has the eyes of a top-ranking predator, capable of scanning the landscape from heights of hundreds of meters with a precision no modern camera can imitate. But there is something even more intelligent in its strategy. The king vulture does not search for carrion on its own. It watches, it waits, it monitors the movement of smaller scavenger birds. When lower-ranking vultures find a carcass and descend in circles, the king simply follows them. It arrives when the feast has already been located. And then comes the moment that defines all of its power within the ecosystem. The king vulture's beak is a tool unlike any other among scavenging birds. It is robust and sharp enough to tear through the tough, thick hide of large mammals that the other vultures are completely incapable of opening. Without the king vulture, dozens of carcasses would remain sealed, inaccessible to the rest of the chain of decomposition. It is the holder of the key to access. When the king lands, the others step aside. There is no need for displays of force or fighting. Its presence is enough. Black vultures and turkey vultures wait in silence, sometimes for hours, until the king has finished. It is a hierarchy so clear and so established that researchers can predict the behavior of the entire scavenger community simply by observing when the Sarcoramphus papa arrives and when it leaves. A fact rarely mentioned, the king vulture can live up to 30 years in the wild, an extraordinary lifespan for a bird of its size, which scientists partially attribute to the bactericidal nature of its stomach acid, capable of neutralizing lethal pathogens found in carcasses in advanced stages of decomposition. Its digestive system is, quite literally, one of the most resilient in the animal kingdom. Unfortunately, the ongoing deforestation of the American tropical rainforests is reducing its territory at an alarming rate. A population that once flew uninterrupted across millions of kilometers of intact forest is now fragmenting into increasingly smaller patches. When the king disappears, the entire cleaning system of the forest loses its main protagonist, and without it, the jungle becomes sick, imposing, ancient, and irreplaceable. The king vulture does not need a crown because it carries one painted directly onto its face. There are birds that evolution seems to have designed for a parallel world, A world where the usual rules do not apply, where colors follow no known pattern, where behavior challenges every category zoologists have tried to build for centuries. The kagu is exactly that kind of bird. Its scientific name is Rhinochaetos jubatus, and before you have even seen it, it has already heard you. Because the kagu produces one of the most piercing and strange calls of any bird on the planet, a sound that resonates with an almost canine depth, that travels for kilometers through the dense vegetation of its forests, and that for generations the inhabitants of its island interpreted as the voice of dawn. The kagu exists only in New Caledonia, a French island in the South Pacific, and nowhere else in the world. When you see it for the first time, the first thing that strikes you is its color, a pale whitish gray so light that it seems luminous in the dimness of the forest, as if the animal were slightly illuminated from within. Its eyes are an intense orange red that burns in contrast with that almost transparent plumage. And on its head it carries a crest of long feathers that, at rest, falls backward elegantly, but when the animal feels threatened, opens into a halo around the head, as if trying to appear twice as large and terrifying as it really is. It cannot fly. Its wings exist, and they are completely functional in anatomical terms, but they do not have the muscle-to-mass ratio necessary to lift the animal off the ground. Instead, the wings serve a purpose that no other bird has developed in quite the same way: visual defense communication. When the kagu suddenly spreads them in front of a predator, the patterns of white, black, and reddish-brown that appear create an image so unexpected and disturbing that in most cases it is enough to make the attacker retreat. But the anatomical detail that has left generations of ornithologists perplexed is another one, and it is so small that it is almost invisible to the naked eye. The kagu can actively close its nostrils. It possesses a specialized membrane that covers and seals the nasal openings, while the bird pushes its beak into moist soil to hunt worms, snails, and small invertebrates. This mechanism, extremely rare in the bird world, prevents dirt from clogging the respiratory passages during the search for food. One little-known fact: the bone structure of the kagu contains a notably higher proportion of hemoglobin in its blood than most flightless birds. This suggests that its ancestors were active flyers, and that the ability to fly was lost relatively recently in evolutionary terms, perhaps when the island of New Caledonia became isolated enough that the cost of maintaining flight muscles outweighed any defensive advantage. The indigenous Kanak people call it the ghost of the forest, and not only because of its color. The kagu moves with a silent precision that seems incompatible with its size, disappearing into the vegetation within seconds. Its call, which can be heard from more than 2 kilometers away under optimal conditions, was used in traditional villages as a signal of dawn. Today, the kagu is the national symbol of New Caledonia and appears on its coins and coat of arms, but it also appears on the list of critically endangered species. The introduction of dogs, cats, and rats has devastated a population that did not evolve to defend itself against mammalian predators. It is estimated that fewer than 2,000 individuals remain in the wild, a spirit of the forest that the world risks losing forever. If this bird has left you speechless, leave us a like. It is the signal we need to keep bringing you this kind of content. In the world of birds, strength builds nests by crushing branches together. Speed hunts before the prey can react. But there is a third category, less spectacular at first glance and absolutely fascinating at second. The intelligence that turns ordinary materials into precise architecture, stitch by stitch, with an instrument that was never designed for sewing. The tailor bird, whose scientific name is Orthotomus sutorius, is one of the smallest birds on this list. It inhabits southern and southeastern Asia, from India to Indonesia, and its body fits in the palm of a hand. But do not let that size lead you to the wrong conclusions. This animal is one of the most sophisticated architects in the natural world, and what it builds during breeding season is a demonstration of precision any designer should envy. When the time comes to nest, the female searches for a large, flexible leaf, usually from wild banana plants, palms, or pandanus. Then, using only its sharp beak, it pierces a series of tiny holes along the edge of the leaf. Afterward, using spider silk, plant fibers, or strands of grass as if they were sewing thread, it passes the material through the holes and stitches the edges of the leaf together, forming a closed cone or pouch. Every stitch is tightened carefully, leaving no space for the nest to open in the wind. There is no needle. There are no fingers. Only the beak, instinct, and a learning capacity that researchers have taken decades to fully understand. What makes this behavior even more remarkable is that every nest is different. There is no fixed genetic template dictating exactly how it must be built. The tailor bird adapts its technique to the type of leaf available, the type of material it finds, and the position of the nest relative to the surrounding branches. Researchers from the Zoological Institute of Bombay documented more than 12 different stitching materials, from spider webs to coconut fibers, including something nobody expected: thin strands of plastic collected from human waste. That last point deserves a moment. The tailor bird is integrating industrial waste into its construction, not because it understands what plastic is, but because its brain identifies the material as useful and incorporates it into its repertoire. It is a real-time behavioral adaptation that speaks of extraordinary cognitive plasticity for an animal with a brain of that size. A rarely cited fact: the tailor bird can build up to 3 different nests during a single season, and it does not always use all of them. Some appear to be decoy nests, structures built in different locations to confuse potential predators about which one contains the real eggs. It is a form of active deception behavior that implies a considerable capacity for spatial representation. In popular Hindi, it is called darzi, which simply means tailor, because the image of that tiny bird working with its beak like a needle became so deeply rooted in the collective imagination that it eventually gave the species its name. Small in size, enormous in ingenuity, the tailor bird is proof that complexity does not need scale to be real. If the universe had decided to create a single creature to prove that beauty can reach physically absurd levels, it would have created the greater bird of paradise. Not because it is the most striking member of its family, which contains approximately 42 species, but because its story combines the visually impossible with one of the most beautiful scientific misunderstandings in natural history. Its scientific name is Paradisea apoda, and the second word in that name says everything. Apoda means without feet. It lives in the tropical rainforests of New Guinea and the Aru Islands archipelago, and when the male spreads its full plumage during courtship, what appears is difficult to process as something real. The head is a brilliant lemon yellow. The neck fades into an intense emerald green, almost metallic, and from its flanks, dozens of warm orange-yellow feathers spread out like a cloud of fire that can exceed 40 centimeters in length, swaying with the slightest movement of air, as if the animal had no weight at all. That beauty does not exist to be admired. It is a reproductive weapon. During breeding season, males gather in specific trees called leks, where they compete against one another with displays that combine dance, sound, and the maximum exhibition of their plumage. The females watch silently from nearby branches, evaluating for hours. Only the males with the most spectacular feathers, the greatest endurance, and the clearest signs of health are selected. The rest simply do not reproduce. It is a system of sexual selection taken to the extreme, where the cost of being beautiful can literally be life itself, because such striking plumage also attracts predators. When the first specimens arrived in Europe during the 16th century, something had gone terribly wrong in the preparation process. The Malay traders who prepared the skins for transport removed the legs to make packing easier, and the Europeans who received those skins had never seen the birds complete. Faced with an animal of supernatural plumage with no visible feet, the conclusion seemed inevitable. These birds lived permanently in the air, never landed, and floated eternally between the sky and the clouds until death caused them to fall. From that came the name Paradisea apoda, the footless bird of paradise. And from that also came the belief, maintained for decades in European naturalist circles, that these creatures did not fully belong to the material world. It was not until the first naturalists arrived in New Guinea and saw the living animal that the myth was finally disproven. One additional fact. Studies in structural biology have revealed that the feathers of the greater bird of paradise contain nanoparticles that absorb light differently depending on the viewing angle, creating an effect of depth and movement even when the animal is completely still. It is not just color, it is an active optical system. Today, the feathers of the bird of paradise remain among the most valued objects in the ceremonial rituals of the indigenous peoples of Papua, used in headdresses that represent social rank, spiritual identity, and family lineage. Without needing a throne, without needing a title, the greater bird of paradise carries across its body all the paradise anyone could imagine. Can you imagine a bird that looks as if it stepped directly out of a period film, dressed in an elegant suit with a crest of feathers behind its head, resembling the quill pens tucked into the hair of a 19th century secretary? That is exactly what the first Europeans thought when they saw it, and that is why they gave it that name. The secretary bird, whose scientific name is Sagittarius serpentarius, is one of the most morphologically unique birds on the planet. Standing nearly 1 meter and 20 centimeters tall, with long, slender, bluish-gray legs, a pale gray body with black wings, and that distinctive crest of black feathers hanging behind the head, this bird looks like a fusion of a heron, an eagle, and something imagined by an illustrator of fables. But behind that aristocratic appearance hides one of the most efficient and surprising predators in the entire African savanna, because the secretary bird does not hunt from the air, it walks. Every day it can cover between 20 and 30 kilometers on foot across the savanna, inspecting the tall grass with its raptor eyes, locating snakes, lizards, frogs, small mammals, and even large insects. And when it finds a snake, even one of the most venomous on the African continent, such as the black mamba or the Egyptian cobra, its method of attack is one of the most brutally efficient in nature. The secretary bird uses its legs as its primary weapon. A single kick generates a force 5 times greater than its own body weight, equivalent to the punch of a professional heavyweight boxer. And what makes that fact even more impressive is the speed. The entire attack occurs in less than 15 milliseconds. A human blink requires between 150 and 400 milliseconds. A venomous snake, no matter how fast its reflexes may be, has absolutely no chance to react before receiving the blow. The technique is precise. The bird repeatedly strikes the snake's head with such speed and force that the reptile is stunned or killed before it can orient itself. The thick scales on its legs act as natural protection against fangs. Under laboratory conditions, researchers at the University of Exeter filmed attacks in slow motion and confirmed that the force of the impact is the most powerful relative to body weight ever documented in any bird of prey. There is a lesser-known anatomical detail that is equally fascinating. The secretary bird is the only bird of prey in the world that hunts primarily in an upright bipedal position, which has led it to develop leg musculature completely different from that of any other raptor. Its legs possess reinforced tendons that function like biological springs, storing energy while walking and releasing it explosively during the attack. It is a biomechanical system that robotics engineers have been trying to replicate for years. Its image appears on the national coat of arms of South Africa and Sudan, depicted standing upright and sovereign. The Maasai people consider it a guardian of the land, an animal that clears the territory of invisible threats. But habitat fragmentation and agricultural expansion are reducing the space available to it. A creature that needs to travel 30 kilometers a day cannot survive in plots of land surrounded by crops. The secretary bird is now classified as a vulnerable species, and its numbers in the wild continue to decline steadily. Elegant as a diplomat, lethal as a prize fighter, and irreplaceable as a guardian of the savannah. What impresses you most about this bird? Its impeccable bearing or the devastating speed of its legs? If the Amazon rainforest had an absolute sovereign, an entity standing at the top of every food chain, one that no terrestrial predator could look directly in the eyes without feeling something close to the instinct to retreat, that sovereign would have a name: Harpy. The Harpy Eagle is the largest and most powerful bird of prey in the Western Hemisphere. An adult male can weigh up to 8 kilograms and a female can exceed 9. Its wingspan reaches 2 meters, but wingspan is not what defines this animal because there are vultures that are larger. What defines the harpy eagle are its talons, measuring up to 13 centimeters in length, equivalent to the claws of an adult brown bear, and with a gripping force estimated at more than 500 kilograms per square centimeter. These talons can compress and fracture the skull of a spider monkey at the instant of impact. It hunts primarily in the upper canopy of the rainforest, at heights between 20 and 40 meters above the ground, and specializes in prey that most aerial predators would consider too large or too agile. Three-toed sloths, spider monkeys, capuchin monkeys, large snakes, and even young deer. It launches itself from a waiting position at speeds that can reach 80 kilometers per hour over short distances, reducing the prey's reaction time to a fraction of a second. Here is the anatomical detail that separates the harpy eagle from every other raptor in the world: its face. Unlike most eagles, the harpy possesses a facial disc similar to that of owls. This facial disc acts as a natural parabolic antenna that concentrates and directs sound waves toward the bird's ears. And its ears are not symmetrical. They are positioned at slightly different heights on the skull, allowing it to calculate the position of a sound in 3 dimensions with extraordinary precision. The harpy eagle does not only see its prey with visual acuity 20 times greater than that of humans, it hears it and locates it with millimetric precision before it even enters its field of vision. One fact that rarely appears: the harpy eagle has the longest breeding period of any raptor in the Americas. A pair raises only 1 chick every 2 or 3 years. The young bird remains with its parents until 2 years of age, learning hunting techniques across a territory of up to 200 square kilometers. This extremely slow reproductive cycle makes the species exceptionally vulnerable to habitat loss. A pair that loses its territory cannot compensate for the loss through accelerated reproduction. In the mythology of numerous Amazonian indigenous peoples, the harpy eagle is the messenger between the human world and the spiritual world, the being that inhabits the boundary between the visible and the invisible. It is the national symbol of Panama, represented on its coat of arms in a posture of untamable power. Deforestation has critically fragmented its habitat. Every tree cut down in the Amazon does not only remove wood, it removes hunting territory, nesting territory, and ultimately removes breeding pairs that will not be replaced for years. Lady of the canopy, embodiment of absolute power in the living world. The harpy eagle is the clearest reason to fight for every remaining square meter of rainforest. Have you ever imagined being able to walk on water? Not metaphorically, literally, placing one foot on the surface, then the other, and moving forward without sinking, gliding among water lilies and lotus flowers, as if gravity had decided to make an exception for you. The African jacana does not need to imagine it. Its scientific name is Actophilornis africanus, and every day of its life is spent doing exactly that. Walking across the floating vegetation of swamps, marshes, and lakes throughout sub-Saharan Africa as if it were the most natural thing in the world. The secret lies in its legs, and more specifically in its toes. The toes of the African jacana are extraordinarily long in proportion to the bird's body, and when fully spread, they can reach a span of up to 10 centimeters from tip to tip. That length distributes the bird's weight across such a wide contact surface that the pressure per square centimeter on a lily pad becomes minimal, insufficient to sink the surface. It is the same principle that allows humans to walk on soft snow with snowshoes, but executed by biology with an elegance no engineer has been able to improve upon. Its plumage possesses an intensity difficult to capture in words. Head and neck of a pure, crisp white, back and wings of a reddish-brown that shines in the sunlight like polished bronze, and beneath the chin a patch of yellow so vivid that it seems to emit its own light. But what truly distinguishes the African jacana in the catalogue of the extraordinary is not how it walks or how it looks. It is how it lives. Because this species has completely and functionally reversed all the reproductive roles we consider typical in the bird world. In the African jacana, the female is dominant. The female is up to 75% larger than the male. The female establishes and defends a territory and mates with several males during the same breeding season, a system known in biology as polyandry. After laying eggs in each male's nest, the female leaves. She does not incubate. She does not care for the chicks. That responsibility falls entirely upon the father. And the male does not only incubate the eggs for 3 weeks. Once the chicks hatch, he becomes their escort, guide, and shield. When a predator approaches, the male gathers the chicks beneath his wings and walks with them hidden underneath, leaving only the tiny legs of the chicks visible beneath the father's body. To a predator, it sees only an adult bird. The chicks are invisible. The image of those tiny little legs sticking out beneath the father's body is at once amusing and deeply moving. It is one of the clearest demonstrations that parental care has no predetermined gender in nature, but instead takes the form that evolutionary pressure finds most efficient. One additional fact: male African jacanas have developed an individual recognition ability that allows them to distinguish their own chicks from those of other males, even after prolonged separations, a level of social memory researchers did not expect to find in a bird of this size. Love, as this little bird demonstrates, does not follow predetermined instructions. What about the jacana makes you reflect the most? At the edge between the real and the impossible, there exists an animal that every time it moves seems to challenge its own existence. Not because of its size, which is modest. Not because of its color, which is extraordinary but not unique among birds of paradise. But because of a proportion that reason refuses to accept as functional. The ribbon-tailed astrapia, whose scientific name is Astrapia mayeri, inhabits the mountainous forests of inland New Guinea, at altitudes above 3,000 meters. The body of the male measures approximately 32 centimeters. But from its tail emerge 2 white tail feathers that in the most developed adult specimens can reach 1 meter in length, 3 times the length of its own body. 2 ribbons of immaculate white hanging from branches like forgotten silk, moving with every breeze as if they possessed a life of their own. The chromatic contrast between those 2 white tails and the rest of the plumage is one of the most extreme visual spectacles nature has ever produced. The head is covered with metallic green feathers so brilliant they appear painted with industrial enamel. The neck fades into a warm golden brown. And from that dark, compact body, the 2 white ribbons project downward in perfect symmetry. During breeding season, the male performs a display that ornithologists describe as one of the most elegant in the entire family. It positions itself on a branch, tilts its body at a specific angle, and allows the 2 white tails to fall and sway freely while emitting soft vocalizations. The females evaluate something very specific: the length, symmetry, and condition of those tails, because carrying tails of that length is costly. Expensive in energetic terms because flying with such a burden requires considerably greater muscular effort, and expensive in terms of survival because those white ribbons are visible to predators from great distances. A ribbon-tailed astrapia with 1-meter tails is constantly announcing its position. There are animals whose presence in the rainforest is not perceived by sight first, but by the ground. A wait. A slow, deliberate rhythm of footsteps that echoes among the roots before the body even appears between the trees. As if the forest itself were announcing its arrival. The great curassow, whose scientific name is Crax rubra, is the largest terrestrial bird in the Crassidae family and one of the most imposing inhabitants of the tropical forests stretching from southern Mexico to Ecuador. An adult male can reach nearly 1 meter in height and exceed 5 kilograms in weight, with a body so intensely and uniformly black that under the canopy light it seems to shine like wet charcoal. Bird fact. But what makes the great curassow immediately recognizable is its crown. On its head, a crest of rigid, deep black feathers curves forward with an authority that requires no further gesture. And beneath that crown, at the upper base of the beak, the male carries a fleshy protuberance of bright lemon yellow that grows and intensifies with age. The more yellow and prominent it becomes, the more mature and dominant the individual. Females use it as a health indicator. It is an honest signal. It cannot be faked. The female has taken the opposite strategy. Her plumage is a mosaic of brown, black, and white in a pattern so complex that when she stands still on the forest floor, she can become literally invisible from just a few meters away. The difference between male and female in this species is so extreme that for decades, early European naturalists classified them as separate species. Here is one of the most unsettling facts about the great curassow. It lays only 2 eggs per clutch and builds its nest relatively low, between 1 and 3 meters above the ground. In an undisturbed rainforest, this strategy works because adult longevity balances low reproductive output. But in a fragmented forest with feral dogs and hunting pressure, that balance disappears. A pair that loses a clutch has no rapid recovery mechanism. The species cannot compensate with more eggs, only with time. And time is exactly what deforestation does not allow. In Mayan civilization, the great curassow appeared in ritual ceramics, temple reliefs, and codices as a representation of the spirit of the primordial forest. The Maya understood something that modern biology has taken decades to formalize, that a forest without its medium-sized structural inhabitants is not the same forest. The great curassow is today classified as vulnerable globally. Its slow, deliberate footsteps on the forest floor are the sound of a world that is shrinking. Protecting it is not only saving a bird, it is keeping alive the system that created it. There are objects in nature that the physics of light turns into something the human eye processes as magic. An opal stone, a labradorite crystal, a morpho butterfly wing, and a bird so small it fits in a pocket, yet whose plumage is capable of changing color completely simply by the viewer shifting position. The purple glossy starling, whose scientific name is Lampratornis purpureus, measures barely 23 centimeters and weighs less than 80 grams. It inhabits sub-Saharan Africa, especially wooded savanna regions and gallery forests. What is not ordinary is everything that happens when light touches it. The plumage of this animal does not have color in the sense we use that word for most birds. There are no pigments producing the violet or deep blue that characterize it. Instead, the microscopic structure of each feather consists of layers of keratin stacked with nanometer-scale spacing, so precise that when light strikes this structure, certain wavelengths are amplified through constructive interference and others are cancelled through destructive interference. The result is a color that does not exist as pigment but as a physical effect of light itself. This phenomenon is called structural coloration, the same principle that produces the electric blue of morpho butterfly wings, the iridescent green of the ruby-throated hummingbird, or the metallic shine of jewel beetles. But while in many animals structural color is fixed, in the purple glossy starling it changes with the angle of observation so dramatically that the same individual can appear to be 3 different birds in the same second. Under direct midday sun, deep royal purple like ripe grapes, tilted slightly, an almost artificial electric blue in filtered shade, a warm coppery bronze. In the low light of sunset, a mixture of metallic green and gold. All of that in a bird that has not molted a single feather, only moved. A detail that adds another layer of fascination. Researchers at the University of Antwerp demonstrated that the keratin nanoparticles in the feathers of the genus Lampratornis are arranged in a quasi-periodic structure, a type of organization that is neither fully random nor fully periodic, and that is extremely difficult to reproduce synthetically. Materials engineers have been trying for years to replicate these structures for applications in solar panels and high-efficiency, anti-reflective coatings. In the folklore of numerous West African peoples, the purple glossy starling is associated with prosperity and magic because it is believed that an animal carrying the colors of gold and royalty must have been blessed. With no paint, no dye, no pigment creating the colors you see, the African purple glossy starling demonstrates that the most sophisticated beauty is not built from materials but from structure and light. Before seeing this animal, you must prepare yourself for a moment of genuine disbelief. Because when European scientists first received a kiwi specimen in the 19th century, many assumed it was a fraud, a taxidermist's joke, an assembly of parts from different animals. It was not. The kiwi is completely real, and it is a bird. Although any attribute you normally use to identify a bird is absent, minimized, or inverted in this creature. The scientific name of the common kiwi is Apteryx australis, and the 4 species of the genus Apteryx inhabit only New Zealand. They have no functional wings, only tiny vestigial remnants hidden beneath a plumage that does not look like feathers at all, but like thick, coarse, reddish-brown fur. They have no tail. They cannot fly, obviously, but they also do not run with the elegance one would expect from a terrestrial bird. They move with a kind of deliberate, slightly clumsy trot, more reminiscent of a medium-sized mammal that took a wrong turn in evolution. The anatomical feature that makes biologists stop everything and pay attention is in the beak. The kiwi has its nostrils located at the very tip of the beak, not at the base as in all other known birds, all of them, without exception. The kiwi is the only bird in the world that smells with the end of its nose in a distal position, meaning it locates its food exactly like a dog, sniffing the ground, following odor gradients through moist soil and leaf litter. The tip of the beak is also equipped with thousands of mechanosensory pressure receptors that detect vibrations produced by worms and insect larvae moving beneath the surface. The kiwi inserts its beak into the soil, feels the vibrations, adjusts its angle, and extracts its prey without ever having seen it. It is a form of perception of the world completely alien to anything humans experience. Now comes the fact that invariably produces a reaction of disbelief. The kiwi egg weighs between 16 and 20% of the female's body weight. A female weighing 2 kilograms lays an egg that can approach 400 grams. To put it in human terms, it is equivalent to a 60-kilogram woman giving birth to a 12-kilogram baby. The egg is so large that radiographic studies show it occupies almost the entire abdominal cavity of the female during the final weeks of development. The stomach becomes compressed to the point of barely functioning. And after laying that enormous egg, in most species, it is the male who incubates it for 75 days. In Maori culture, the kiwi is a taonga, a sacred treasure. Kiwi feather cloaks used in important ceremonies were garments of chiefly status that could not be acquired with any currency. Today, the kiwi gives its name to the people of New Zealand, a level of cultural identification that few species achieve anywhere in the world. But the kiwi is facing an extinction crisis. Rats, stoats, and feral cats consume eggs and chicks at a rate populations cannot compensate for. Conservation programs involving active predator control across thousands of hectares are racing against time. Without such intervention, the kiwi could disappear from the wild within a few generations. Strange, humble, biologically impossible, and absolutely irreplaceable. The kiwi is the soul of a land that created it and is now fighting not to lose it. What you're about to see will make you doubt that nature is capable of producing something like this without the intervention of some kind of conscious design. Because the King of Saxony bird of paradise, whose scientific name is Pteridoptera alberti, carries on its head 2 structures that, when first sent to Europe in 1894, the scientific community rejected as an obvious fake. No one, said the zoologists of the continent's leading natural history institutions, no one could believe evolution could produce something like this. It had to be a trick, a fabrication, a specimen from those occasional forgeries that circulated among collectors. They were wrong. The bird inhabits the montane forests of New Guinea, at elevations between 500 and 2,000 meters. The male's body is compact, jet black with patches of warm yellow. But from its crown emerge 2 erect feathers that can reach up to 50 centimeters, more than twice the total body length of the animal itself. And along each of those feathers, at regular intervals, hang small sky blue filaments, 30 to 40 per plume, each shaped like a tiny shield. When the bird moves, these filaments oscillate in sequence, like a chain of lanterns activated by the wind. The courtship display of this species is considered by many ornithologists to be the most sophisticated ever documented in the avian world. The male selects a specific branch, clears it of leaves and obstacles with meticulous precision, and then performs a display that researchers at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology have described as a fully integrated multimodal signaling system. The two head feathers move in a rhythmic pattern that makes the blue filaments flicker like coded signals. At the same time, the male vocalizes sounds that imitate several different animals, as it is an exceptional mimic capable of reproducing the calls of other species with remarkable accuracy. And while all of this happens, it moves its head in a lateral pattern that enhances the visual effect of the filaments by altering the angle of light striking them. It is a courtship system operating simultaneously through visual, auditory, and motion channels, with each component synchronized with the others to maximize impact on the observing female. One additional detail adds an unexpected dimension. Genetic studies of populations of this species across different valleys of New Guinea's central mountain range have revealed that males in different regions have developed local variations in display patterns that are culturally transmitted, learned from adult males by juveniles, not genetically programmed. This places the King of Saxony bird of paradise among the small group of animals with demonstrable culture. For the indigenous peoples of Papua, its feathers are objects of symbolic value that no material wealth can replace, appearing in ceremonial headdresses that affirm the identity and history of each clan. With only two small feathers on its head, the King of Saxony bird of paradise has fascinated the world for more than a century. And it will continue to do so as long as the forests of New Guinea remain standing. Sometimes records do not need an introduction, because the mere listing of facts is already the complete argument. The African ostrich, whose scientific name is Struthio camelus, is the largest bird that exists on Earth, and moreover the living being that holds more simultaneous records in its category than any other known bird. An adult male can reach 2 meters and 80 centimeters in height, surpassing the height of most standard household doors. Its weight can reach 150 kilograms. Its eggs weigh up to 1 kilogram and 400 grams, the equivalent of approximately 24 domestic chicken eggs. They are the largest eggs produced by any living animal today, although in relative terms they represent less than 2% of the female's body weight, which paradoxically makes them the smallest eggs relative to adult size among all birds. And it is not slow. The ostrich is the fastest running bird in the world. At sustained top speed, it can maintain 70 kilometers per hour for extended periods. Each stride can cover up to 3.5 meters. No terrestrial predator of the African savanna can catch it once it has reached full speed and has open ground ahead. But there is a limit to escape. Chicks and eggs cannot run. And there another side of the ostrich appears. Its kick generates an estimated force between 500 and 600 kilograms of impact. With two toes equipped with nails that act like claws on impact, there are documented cases of ostriches killing adult lions with a single kick to the chest region. It is not a defensive bird by default. It is a defensive bird by capability. The myth of the ostrich burying its head in the sand deserves its own paragraph, because it is one of the most widespread zoological misunderstandings in popular culture. Ostriches do not bury their heads. When incubating eggs, parents lower their heads close to ground level to turn the eggs or regulate nest temperature. And from a distance, this posture can look like the animal is inserting its head into the earth. In addition, when detecting a predator from afar, it may press its neck and head against the ground in a camouflage posture that reduces its visual profile. It never puts its head in any hole. But the legend persists because it fits perfectly with the stereotype of cowardice. One rarely mentioned fact: the ostrich's eye measures 50 millimeters in diameter, making it the largest eye of any terrestrial animal on Earth. Even larger than that of an elephant, which is far bigger overall. These enormous eyes provide it with an almost complete 360-degree field of vision and a motion detection capability at long distances that functions as an early warning system for the entire savanna community. When ostriches raise their heads and look in a direction, zebras and antelopes sharing the territory pay attention. In ancient Egypt, the ostrich feather was the symbol of Maat, the goddess of justice and truth, precisely because ostrich feathers are the only ones in the animal kingdom where the two halves of the vane are exactly symmetrical. All other feathers in all other birds have one side slightly wider than the other. The ostrich's does not. That perfect symmetry became a symbol of balance and fairness. The largest, the fastest, the one with the most enormous eyes. The African ostrich is the most powerful demonstration that, to be extraordinary, there is no need to fly. There are species that seem to exist as if they arrived from a planet where evolution made completely different decisions. And there are species that, after reaching the edge of extinction, return thanks to a human effort of such extreme dedication that it is difficult to describe without it sounding like exaggeration. The kakapo is both at the same time. Its scientific name is Strigops habroptilus, and it is the heaviest parrot in the world. An adult male can exceed 4 kilograms, twice the weight of an African gray parrot. It is completely nocturnal, which already distinguishes it from all other known parrots. It cannot fly. Its wings are functional, but the ratio between muscle mass and body weight makes flight impossible. And its face, with the facial discs surrounding the beak and eyes, resembles so little a conventional parrot and so much an owl that it is commonly known as the owl parrot. It has a very characteristic sweet floral scent, detectable several meters away, similar to a combination of honeyflowers and freshly cut leaves. Its evolutionary lineage extends back in an extraordinary way. Mitochondrial DNA analysis suggests that the Kakapo lineage separated from the rest of the parrots between 50 and 60 million years ago. It is a living fossil in the most literal sense, an animal that has survived from the Eocene to the present with almost no change in its fundamental form. New Zealand, for millions of years, was a world without terrestrial mammalian predators. In that environment, the kakapo completely lost its instinct for predator awareness. Not because it was stupid, but because that instinct carried an energetic cost and no adaptive advantage. An animal that never needed to flee from anything that walked on land simply stopped allocating metabolic resources to that response system. This absence of fear is so absolute that the kakapo can climb onto the head of a stranger it has just met, gently nibble their ears out of curiosity, and remain there calmly for minutes. It is one of the most widely viewed videos of this species in the history of the internet, and it perfectly reflects the evolutionary distance between this animal and the world of predators. That trust became a sentence when European settlers introduced rats from ships, domestic cats that became feral, and stoats imported deliberately to control those same rats. For the kakapo, these new ground-dwelling inhabitants were creatures for which it had no response protocol. It did not flee. It did not effectively hide. It simply stayed where it was. The population collapsed. In 1995, the complete census of the species produced a number that conservationists described as one of the most terrifying figures in the history of conservation biology: 51 individuals in the entire world. New Zealand responded with the most intensive per-individual conservation program ever implemented for any species in history. Every living kakapo was transferred to completely predator-free islands. Each individual was given a name and a radio transmitter for constant monitoring. A team of biologists and veterinarians is available for every animal during every breeding season. Nests are monitored with infrared cameras. Eggs are temporarily moved to incubators when weather conditions are adverse. The result, in 2024, the kakapo population surpassed 250 individuals, the highest number in more than a century, still critically endangered. Still dependent on constant human intervention to survive, but alive and reproducing thanks to a collective decision that this animal could not disappear. It is never too late if we choose to truly act. The kakapo is living proof of that. The number one on this list does not belong to the largest bird, nor the most striking, nor the one with the most impossible colors or the most extraordinary feathers. The number one belongs to a creature that measures 55 centimeters, weighs less than 3 kilograms, and has chosen to build its life in the most hostile, most windy, and most vertically irrational place any bird could have selected to raise its young. The rockhopper penguin, whose scientific name is Eudiptes chrysocome, inhabits the steep, rugged cliffs of subantarctic islands and the Southern Ocean, the Falklands, Tristan da Cunha, the Kerguelen Islands, the Crozet Islands, and a dozen other fragments of volcanic rocks scattered across the most violent ocean on the planet. These are not gentle cliffs. They are walls of rock dropping directly into the sea with no beach, no gradual slope, no place to land comfortably. Waves crashing at their base can exceed 10 meters during storms. Sustained winds regularly surpass 100 kilometers per hour. The water is 4 degrees Celsius, and on those cliffs, in the crevices and ledges of that perpetually wet, battered rock, the rockhopper penguin builds its nest. To reach it, it leaves the sea. That in itself is already a problem, because exiting the ocean against a vertical rock face with 10-meter waves has no elegant technical solution. The rockhopper's solution is brutal and completely functional. It launches itself toward the rock at just the right moment, grabs whatever it can with its flippers and claws, and climbs, literally climbs. With both feet together, jumping like a spring from crevice to crevice, ledge to ledge, sometimes against the very direction of gravitational logic. They scale cliffs that human mountaineering teams, fully equipped, would look at with respect. The name of the bird is exactly what it does. It hops rocks. And it does so with a precision and determination that ornithologists have repeatedly described as the most energetically costly behavior documented in any penguin. Its eyebrows are the most recognizable image of the species. Tufts of yellow feathers rising from its eyes like 2 flames or 2 permanent exclamation marks, giving the animal an expression of perpetual defiance that has made it a star of countless photographs and documentaries. That defiant gaze is almost literally what evolution selected for, a creature that does not back down. But what makes the rockhopper penguin #1 on this list is not its athletic skill or its distinctive expression. It is something harder to quantify and easier to feel. Every year, when the breeding season ends and the ocean reclaims these animals for months of feeding in the open sea, pairs separate. Each one swims in its own direction, following currents and krill shoals during the austral winter, separated by hundreds or even thousands of kilometers of open ocean. And when spring returns, when biological instinct brings each animal back to land, the rockhopper penguins return to the same cliff, the same ledge, the same nest. And there, amid the roar of wind and waves, they reunite, year after year. The same rock, the same pair. The exact mechanism by which they achieve this level of topographic fidelity is still not fully understood. It is known that they use Earth's magnetic field and stellar positions as navigation systems. It is known that they recognize their partner vocally among hundreds of individuals calling simultaneously in the colony. It is known that pair fidelity in this species exceeds 90% from season to season. But the sum of all these technical mechanisms still does not fully explain why this animal fasts for days, swims for kilometers, and climbs impossible cliffs just to reach the same rock where it left someone the year before. Today, rockhopper penguin populations have declined by 30% compared to estimates from 40 years ago. Warming of the Southern Ocean is shifting the distribution of krill, their main food source, forcing the animals to swim increasingly longer distances to find enough nutrition before returning to breed. Time away from the nest increases. Chicks are left unprotected for longer. Survival rates fall. And yet on the wind-beaten cliffs at the end of the world, the rockhopper continues doing what it has always done, jumping, climbing, returning, without complaint, without surrender, with a consistency that anyone who has ever loved something for a long time can recognize from the very first moment they see it. Greatness, as this 55-centimeter penguin teaches us, is not in the size of the body that carries it. It is in the height of the risks it accepts, and in the willingness to always return to the same place. Which of these 15 birds has left you with an image you can't get out of your head? Tell us in the comments. We love reading every single one of your responses. What you have just explored is only a fraction of the catalog of what nature has built on this planet. Every continent, every remote island, every strip of rainforest still standing holds creatures with stories just as extraordinary, just as improbable, just as urgent. Our content is supported by verified scientific sources, and by collaboration with specialists in biology and conservation. If you want to keep exploring this world with us, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss anything, and share this video with someone who cares about what remains to be protected in this world. Because these birds not only deserve to be seen, they deserve to continue existing.